Please place your left hand on the Bible and raise your right. I, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
I, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I take this obligation freely,
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
on which I am about to enter.
on which I'm about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. Secretary.
I want to begin by thanking President Trump for giving me this extraordinary opportunity. And I want to introduce my family and thank them for being here. My wife, Cheryl, my cousin, Anthony Shriver, my daughter, Kik, my other daughter, Kira, Catalina Shriver, Joey Shriver, Jackson Hines, and Amaryllis Kennedy. Oh, and I want to thank all of you for your support and throughout this whole 2.5-year journey. My first time in this Oval Office was in 1961, and I came here to meet or 1962. I came here and I had a meeting with my uncle, who was president then, where we talked about the environment. He was involved deeply, as we all know, in restoring physical fitness in this country. He challenged at one point during his administration, he challenged Americans to do a 50-mile walk, which I ultimately did. But I remember the day that my father completed his walk. We were staying up at Camp David. And my father came in after 18 hours walking on the C&O towpath with his feet bleeding and blisters on them. My father had one of his best friends was Al Lowenstein. And Al Lowenstein ultimately was a congressman from New York who was assassinated himself in 1980. But Al Lowenstein had started the Dump Johnson movement to get rid of President Johnson and end the Vietnam War. And at the time that he started it, people just thought it was a fool's errand. And ultimately, he asked my father to run for president against Johnson. My father wouldn't do it at that time, and he asked Gene McCarthy. McCarthy did it, and he joined that campaign. And my father ultimately ran, and Johnson then dropped out. So Al Lowenstein succeeded. And although Al Lowenstein was on the other side now, running against my father with Gene McCarthy, my father wrote him a note, a quote from Emerson, where he said, "If a single man plant himself firmly on his own ideal and there abide, the whole wide world will come round to him." For 20 years, I've gotten up every morning on my knees and prayed that God would put me in a position where I can end the childhood chronic disease epidemic in this country. On August 23rd of last year, God sent me President Trump. And he gave me he's now given me, he's kept every promise that he's made to me. He's kept his word in every account and gone way beyond it. I'm so grateful to you, Mr. President. A lot of people told me that I couldn't trust President Trump, that I better get it in writing. And we did a handshake, and everything that he told me he was going to do, he has done. And I'm so grateful to him, and I've told you before, I genuinely believe that you are a pivotal historical figure, that you are going to transform this country at a time when We see all of the indicia of democracy now in tatters in our country. We see the rise of the military-industrial complex, the rise of totalitarianism, these attacks on our Constitution, and this breathtaking epidemic that is disabling our people. President Trump has promised to restore the American dream in this country. A healthy person has 1,000 dreams. A sick person only has one. 60% of our population has only one dream, that they get better. President Trump has promised that he's going to restore America's strength. But we can't be a strong nation if we have a weak citizenry. If people are sick, 60% of our people are sick, 77%, as President Trump mentioned, of our children cannot qualify for military service. And we need a man on a white horse now. We need somebody who is willing to come in and has the spine and the guts and the strength to challenge orthodoxies, to stand in the way of vested interests, and to break institutions that have turned against our democracy. President Trump has shown again and again that he is that hero. And most recently, I greatly appreciate it, and I called you the day that you announced the termination of USAID. My uncle started USAID in 1961 for humanitarian purposes, to put our country on the side of the poor. It has been captured by the military-industrial complex. It has become a sinister propagator of totalitarianism and war across the globe. And very few people understand how sinister this agency really is. And President Trump saw that, and he stood up to it with a masterstroke. And we want to do the same thing with the institutions that are stealing the health of our children. We need a revolutionary figure, and you are that figure, and I'm very grateful for you for giving me this opportunity. I want to recognize some of the allies that I've had in this battle for a long time: Senator Rand Paul, Senator Ron Johnson, Senator Roger Marshall, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Buddy Carter, who've all been champions of the MAHA agenda before I even came along. I'm very grateful for you for standing strong. Thank you very much, President Trump.
Mr. Secretary, if I could ask, what plans do you have immediately at HHS now that you're sworn in?
All right, let's bring in our senior national correspondent, Ann Flaherty, who covers all things policy for us. And RFK Jr., after a very controversial nomination and a lot of uncertainty whether he would get through the process, has now been sworn in as HHS secretary. So knowing what we know about him, his beliefs, many of them extreme, what do you think his first step will be now that it's official?
Well, Kira, I think you put that characterization exactly right. I think really interesting what we just saw was him really praising Donald Trump, calling him a revolutionary figure. He said that he had prayed on his knees for many years that he could solve the issue of chronic illnesses among children, and that he believed that God brought him Donald Trump so that he could have that mission, and promising to try to quote, make America healthy again. Of course, we're going to see Trump sign some kind of executive order, perhaps a memo, to set up a commission, a MAHA commission, that will look at many of these issues. But I think one of the things that we could be looking at in the future is, Trump has talked about wanting to pull funding for schools that mandate vaccines. I could see that being something that RFK Jr. would support very much. I think he's also going to want to try to stick with looking at things like food dyes. I think a lot of Americans have questions about the additives in their foods. Of course, food manufacturers tell us that, these are generally recognized as safe. There's no reason to question them. But he could demand more study on that. So we don't have a lot of the details yet, but I think this is certainly the beginning of a very long journey for Kennedy. We know that he has built much of his career off questioning the safety and efficacy of vaccines. vaccines, and we do believe that as soon as he leaves this post, he would likely continue that work. He does like to sue drug makers. He was involved in an ongoing lawsuit against a vaccine maker. So, this does have a lot of health experts very nervous. They do point out that kindergartner vaccines those levels are going down. A lot of parents are very nervous, and they're citing misinformation that they see online, and they're asking for exemptions to these school requirements. So, he could have a very big impact as the nation's health secretary. Kira.
Ann Flaherty, thank you.